There's really nowhere quite like Edinburgh. Its picturesque streets hold countless stories, and over a whirlwind 48 hours, we set out to explore as much as we possibly could. With castles, museums, markets, and more, there's something for everyone in this city, and hopefully this video encourages you to visit. We just finished our 10-day Scotland road trip, which you can watch up here, and now we're going to spend the next 2 days exploring Edinburgh. We stayed in the Grassmarket area, which is a fantastic spot to stay with lots of restaurants and shops all around. Plus it's close to Victoria Street, one of the most beautiful streets in the city. For us though, we were heading to breakfast, so we walked up and over the Royal Mile. Yes, up and over, as there's a lot of elevation in climbing upstairs when you're exploring the city. And then we went down one of the city's magical alleyways, also known as a close, on our way to the breakfast spot. Poor Pops, the coffee shop that we picked is at the bottom of all these stairs, right there. It's the only coffee shop in the city.
The coffee pop shop that we picked?
Pops was originally apprehensive as we walked past many coffee shops to get to this location, but after he saw the line outside and the beautiful pastries that greeted you when you went inside, he changed his tune a little bit. I feel like we're starting our day pretty strong. This place had a line, and look at how good these pastries look.
Look at all the blueberries, my gosh.
Plus, you know that they're doing a good coffee here as well. That was a strong start to the morning. One of the best pastries I've had in a long time, and definitely one of the best coffees I've had in Scotland.
I take back my criticism of going down the steps. That was 100% worth it.
And now we're gonna burn off the pastries with this. This is the Scott Monument, and it was erected in 1846 to celebrate the life and works of Sir Walter Scott. Unfortunately, it's not open, so we're not gonna be able to go to the top of that. When we were there, the memorial was closed for some work that they were doing on it. If you go when it's open, you actually climb stairs about 200 feet or 61 meters up to the top of the monument, and you can probably get some great views of the city. I was told to not do it if you're claustrophobic though, and that it has about 280 steps.
That is so cool. I mean, I was hoping to see something like that. That's really cool.
We've only been here for about 2 hours, and I think I've already fell in love with the city. We were killing time before our entry time to the castle, so we decided to head over to the National Galleries of Scotland. With roots dating back to the 1850s, this free museum is one of the best in the city. The museum houses 120,000 items in its collection, and we headed to the Scottish art area first. Don't miss the section on the Glasgow Boys here, which was a group of 20 young Scottish artists who painted in the 1880s to the 1890s.
The incredible detail of these landscapes just blows your mind. I mean, there's some that are impressionistic, but largely they're like photographs from the 1800s. It's pretty incredible.
The museum is home to many famous artists, and in one section you can see multiple paintings by Vincent van Gogh. This is probably the most famous room. There's a Botticelli right in the middle, and then there's a Da Vinci right over there. This was the area I was most excited about, as I tour many art museums, and it's not often that I see anything by Da Vinci. I spent about an hour in the museum, but Pops is in his element just looking at all of the art, so I'm exploring the Prince Street Gardens while he continues to explore the museum before we head up to the castle. I loved hearing the sounds of bagpipes as I walked through the garden, and when it's sunny, this is one of the best places to hang out in the city. The garden used to be a loch, which is a lake for all my American viewers, and it was drained in the 1800s to create this spot. As you walk the gardens, you'll see countless historic memorials all along the pathway. One of the most interesting is to Wojtek, the military bear who was a part of World War II. I'll leave a video on him in the description as it's a fascinating story, but basically he started as a mascot and was known for drinking beer, eating cigarettes, and even wrestling with the soldiers. And then he was actually used to carry heavy ammunition crates during the Battle of Monte Cassino. By far, my favorite part of the gardens is the Ross Fountain, which was installed in 1872 and restored in 2018. It's an ornate cast iron fountain, and it's a beautiful spot to get a good view of the castle behind it. I'm always aware of this as a parent, but in case you're traveling with children, there's an amazing playground right over there next to the fountain. After leaving the fountain behind, I decided to take the lower pathway, and along here there are a bunch more memorials that you can see. And then as you make it back to the stairs, you can actually see the world's oldest floral clock. It was installed here in 1903, and it's replanted every year to have different designs. By this time, Pops had finished exploring the museum, and we made our way up the steep streets going towards the Royal Mile and the top attraction in the city, the castle. I just want to give another reminder, you have to book tickets for this castle in advance. It was sold out today and tomorrow. There's so many people trying to get tickets that couldn't. I booked about a month ago. Definitely recommend when you know you're going to be here to try to book. Edinburgh Castle is popular for a reason. It's perched atop Castle Rock, an old extinct volcano, and it's been a stronghold for over 1,000 years. Plus, it's a dominating feature on the city skyline, and there's great views when you're up there. This castle has so much history to explore, and it's one of the most besieged places in all of Britain with over 26 major attacks on record. You can easily spend about a half day exploring here and seeing things like the crown jewels, which of course you can't take any pictures of. Note that there'll be a line for pretty much anything you do, especially during the summer, and the main things that people try to see are the royal apartments and the crown jewels. My favorite interior was probably the Great Hall, which was built in 1503 for King James IV. He used it for a while for ceremonial occasions, and then it was converted to a soldier's barracks in the 1650s. Across from the Great Hall is the War Memorial, and you can't take pictures inside of that, but you should definitely see it as it's very impressive. The tiny building is the oldest building in Edinburgh from 1130. There was a decent line to enter St. Margaret's Chapel while we were there since it's so small and only a few people can sit inside. It's well worth waiting for though, as this small building has a ton of history. I was even told that it's still an active chapel and that it can host baptisms, weddings, and even services a few times a year. After visiting the chapel, we decided we should stay for the 1 o'clock gun, so I got a spot up here and Pops got a spot down below. If this is something you want to see, you should arrive 30 minutes early as it does fill up. Attending the 1 o'clock gun in Edinburgh is kind of like attending the changing of the guard in London. The 5-minute process includes a lot of pageantry before the gun is officially fired right at 1 o'clock. They've been doing this since 1861 and it goes off most days except Sundays, Good Friday, and Christmas Day. We were told that it often scares people on the street below as they have no idea the gun's going off. Here's what it looks like from both Pops and my angle. Again, you have to wait about 30 minutes to see this, so you're spending that amount of time to see them fire the cannon once, but I thought it was pretty cool. So that's a great castle to visit. The views are amazing. There's lots of history there. That being said, if you can go to another castle like Stirling, I think that's probably better for the rooms and things you can see inside. Leaving the castle, we decided to spend most of the rest of our day here walking along and exploring the Royal Mile. This is a series of connected roads that stretches all the way from the castle down to the palace. And along it are many different restaurants, shops, and historic sites. Our first stop along the mile was to go to the Writers' Museum. This museum is inside a historic mansion that was built in 1622, and it spotlights 3 authors, Robert Burns, Sir Walter Scott, and Robert Louis Stevenson. Each of them has a floor at the museum with lots of different artifacts and things about their writings and their lives. It's free to enter and it's relatively small, so you won't be spending a lot of time there, but if you're interested in any of the authors, then it's definitely something you should stop at while you're in the city. My favorite part was probably all the famous quotes they have in the concrete right outside of the museum. I care to live only to entice people to look at nature's loveliness. By now it was time for lunch and we decided to head over to the Makars Rest, which is a loved spot in the city and has won many awards. They won the best everyday dining restaurant in the UK in 2024 and the world's 9th best restaurant as well. In case you didn't know, Pops is doing a haggis tasting and this is like his 10th one he's had in Scotland. He'll have a video on it.
Almost 10.
We both loved this spot as you basically pick your meat and then you pick your mashed potatoes and sauce and that's it. It's simple, it's easy, it's fast, and it's very good.
I think that's Pop's favorite thing he's eaten on this trip so far.
Really good.
From here was back up to the Royal Mile to explore more historic sites, with our next one being St. Giles Cathedral. The site here has hosted a church since 1124, but much of what you see today was created in the 14th to 16th century. The church has a storied past, with one of the most important moments being when Knox ignited the Reformation here in the 1500s. There's also a story about a woman named Jenny who is upset about how they were trying to bring the Scottish churches in line with the English churches and impose a new common prayer, and when she heard it, she grabbed a stool and threw it at the preacher, which caused riots to break out at the church and all church services to be suspended for the rest of the week. This is one of many events that led to the independence of the Scottish church being maintained. Anyways, I thought that was a unique story to share here, especially seeing the bronze stool, but I have to say this is an incredible place to explore. The vaulted ceilings are amazing and the organ is beautiful and the stained glass, it's just one of those places you have to see yourself. We've been to a lot of cathedrals on this trip and I think that's one of my favorite that we have been to. If you're a Harry Potter fan, be sure to walk in here and you can actually see J.K. Rowling's handprint on the ground. It's an easy quick stop for a photo. The Royal Mile is a great place to spend the day, and about the first quarter of it is actually pedestrian only, so you don't even have to worry about cars. As we were walking around just taking in the sights, we saw something called the Tron Kirk. The Tron Kirk was a church that was built in the 17th century and then closed in 1952. It's a well-known landmark on the Royal Mile, and it sat empty for about 50 years before it started being used as a tourist information center. Now it functions as a small shopping market designed to preserve the beautiful architecture. Before leaving our time on the Royal Mile, I just wanted to highlight a couple more stops. First up is the Museum of Childhood. With over 60,000 items in its permanent collection, it's the world's first museum that was ever dedicated to childhood, and it opened in 1955. It's set in a historic building and it has all sorts of things ranging from toys and dolls to pedal cars, vintage bicycles, and even games. While it may sound like it's for kids, it's actually more for adults, as it has a lot of nostalgia for those who grew up in the different eras that are on display. Plus, it's free to enter, so it's well worth sticking your head in for a few minutes. The last spot I wanted to highlight on this portion of the Royal Mile is John Knox House. This is actually one of the oldest buildings on the Royal Mile, dating back to 1470. While it's doubtful that he actually ever lived here, he's believed to have stayed here briefly in 1572. And because the house was associated with him, it saved it from being demolished in the 1800s, which makes it feel like kind of a hidden time capsule along the Royal Mile since it's one of the oldest buildings here. This museum does cost to enter, but inside you'll learn a lot more about John Knox and about the political and religious climate during his time. This is the famous oak room that was built and painted with all these elaborate paintings on the ceilings in the 1600s. The Oak Room is one of the main reasons people visit, and I have to say it's pretty incredible to see these old paintings. Taking our much needed coffee break for the day at Procaffination. I love being back in a good coffee city. This was a fantastic place for coffee, some of the best cortadas we had while we were traveling. I can't take Pops seriously when there's a blue man climbing the wall behind him. Hey, you're a blue man too, maybe you can go climb the wall afterwards. We can't find anything online as to why this is here, so let us know if you know in the comments. That's our next stop, to climb that hill over there, but we just have to figure out how to get there first. The city is incredibly walkable, so we didn't take public transit the entire day, and it allowed us to see a lot more of the city than you see when you're in a bus. After crossing through the train station, we arrived outside of the historic and luxury hotel known as the Balmoral. So that's the hotel that J.K. Rowling finished the Harry Potter series in. And you want to know how much it costs if you want to stay in that room? I'll give you a second to think about it. All right, Pops, how much does it cost?
$150.
They said at least £2,000 to rent that room for a night. Everyone from queens to celebrities have stayed there, so it must be a pretty cool spot. But we continued on to Calton Hill. This is one of the most famous spots in Edinburgh, as it has one of the views that most people associate with the city. There's a lot of steps and a steep grade to get to the top of this one. Sitting about 100 meters or 300 feet above sea level, this extinct volcanic plug offers some of the best views of the city skyline. I've seen this famous view in photos so many times, and it's amazing to be able to see it myself. Also though, what is this building right here? That's pretty unique. This famous monument was designed for the philosopher Dugald Stewart, but there are actually multiple monuments up on the hill. This building was a city observatory and it was built in 1818. The small observatory functions as the information center, and there was a tiny store in there as well. Normally that one is open and you can actually climb all the way to the top, but they're working on it right now. So we're gonna go see this, which has an interesting history in the city. Originally intended to be the National Monument of Scotland and to be modeled after the Parthenon, they started building it in 1822 and it ran out of funds and was never finished. Because of that, it's now known as Edinburgh's disgrace. It's hilarious that apparently the only way up there is to climb the side. Yep, you can actually come up here if you want, but you have to pull yourself up about a 4-foot wall. Most people were able to do it, but some people definitely needed help, and then once you get up here, you can walk around to your heart's content, but it's only a half-finished structure.
Yeah, this is a cool spot for views, easy too to get up to, not too difficult, but the view over the city of the spires is unbeatable.
We're gonna head back down the hill now, but that is Arthur's Seat, which we're hopefully gonna do tomorrow. Since we had spent the entire day walking, we did decide to grab an Uber here and take it back across the city to where we were staying. And because we never know when to stop exploring for the day, we decided to do a few more stops. Before heading back, we decided to go to the cemetery to see Thomas Riddle's grave, which supposedly inspired the character name for Voldemort in Harry Potter. It took us a while to figure out where to go here, but eventually we saw a crowd walking and we followed them. We found it. The Google map tells you basically on the other side of this wall, but come on this side and then you can see it right here.
Tom Riddle's grave, he died at age 72 years old in 1806.
If you're a Harry Potter fan, you can also see graves for someone with the last name Moody and the last name McGonagall. They may or may not have inspired the characters in the book. Before leaving the cemetery, be sure to go over and see the grave for Greyfriars Bobby. He's a beloved canine legend in the city that famously stood guard over his late owner's grave for 14 years. So awesome. People leave sticks at the grave of the dog since he was such a good boy. There's also a pub with the same name right outside of the cemetery, and there's a statue across the street of the dog.
Good boy, Bobby. Good boy.
Alright, now with that, we're heading back to the Airbnb. Yeah, we decided to do something else before we went back to the Airbnb again. When we got in the previous day, we saw this line for a place called Mary's Milk Bar. The line is basically like this the entire day, so we figured the ice cream must be good, and since we had time to kill, we waited the 25 minutes to get our scoop. I keep telling you guys that we're going back to the Airbnb, but Pops just made us stand in this 20-minute line for ice cream, and I have to say, it is worth it.
It is worth
It is worth it. Plus, look at this place that we get to eat ice cream at. I mean, that's as good as it gets. And with that, our first day is done. One more day of exploring tomorrow. Since we were staying right next to the Grassmarket area, we decided to try Kilted Donuts for breakfast. Starting our day with a donut in front of the castle. Just the perfect thing to have before hiking. They were setting up for the weekly farmers market, so we took the opportunity to walk around and check out many of the different vendors and to grab some protein for our hike.
I don't know why we're eating cold sausage rolls.
That was the only kind they had. In case you're wondering, Mary's Milk Bar does not have a line yet today. I'm sure within the next hour, though, it'll be all the way down here. I love this Grassmarket area. It's so cool to have all the restaurants and coffee shops and to have the farmers market here as well, all with the views of the castle. And now we're heading out to hike Arthur's Seat. One of the things I really wanted to do when I visited Edinburgh was to hike Arthur's Seat. Rising 250 meters, this ancient volcano has an amazing summit that looks out over the city. But of course, in order to get to the summit, we had to hike, and while the hike is relatively short, it's steep the entire way. From this direction, there's two ways up the mountain, the hard way and the moderate way. As you can see, the hard way on the right is closed. So we're going up the left. There are about a dozen ways to get up this mountain, including leaving from the palace itself, but I just followed one of the most used routes on all trails. It ended up being about 2 miles round trip, and we actually had an Uber drop us off at the start of the hike so that we could hike all the way back over to the palace and then just walk up the Royal Mile later. Note that this is a pretty short hike, but there's a lot of stairs and a lot of elevation gain to get to the top. By a lot, it's only about 500 feet, but It's tough when it's in a short period. After making it up to the top of the first hill and connecting with another trail that came up from the palace, we realized that that's probably the most popular way to go. You can see all the people out here hiking on a nice day, and then that is the summit right there. This time lapse shows how popular this hike is, especially on a nice day, and after about 7 more minutes of walking, we made it to the summit. Once you make it to the top, you'll be greeted with amazing views out over the city and out towards the water. Robert Louis Stevenson described it as a hill for magnitude, a mountain in virtue of its bold design. There's a small summit marker at the top that points out the mountains surrounding you and gives you the height of each one. Plus, the height allows you to see many of the famous attractions in the city, including the hill that we were on the previous day. Unfortunately though, it was so windy for me, so I didn't stay up here for very long. On the way down, we're gonna take this path that goes to some ruins and then over to the palace. I will say that if you're looking to come up, the hike from the palace is probably a little bit better than the one that we took. It's definitely longer, but the incline is a lot more gradual, which is nicer for going up and then for going down as well. Watch for this small path on the right hand side as it will take you about 1/10 of a mile up to a viewpoint and to some ruins. This is the ruins of St. Anthony's Chapel, and it overlooks this amazing loch down here. Not much is actually known about the ruins of St. Anthony's Chapel other than that it was supposedly built in the 15th century. But I mean, how cool is it to hike to the top of the mountain and then see ruins that are over 500 years old on the way down? That hill right there is called Haggis No, so watch out. Hobbs might try to eat it. Heading down from the ruins, it was about 10 minutes out to the start of the trail and to the front of the Holyrood Palace. We're skipping the palace day. It's not really a pop-sized thing, but I'm sure next time I come back here with my wife, I will do the palace, and let me know how it is in the comments. You can pay to visit the palace, and it does look pretty opulent. It has been a royal residence since the 16th century. On the outskirts of the castle is this small building right here that's associated with Mary Queen of Scots. They said it was built around the 1560s and it may have been a bathhouse that she used. There's a small sign that notes this and you can see it without going into the palace, so it's cool to stop by. By this time we had worked up an appetite, and so we made our way over to Oink on the Royal Mile, which a few people told us we had to try. Apparently it started as a farmer's market stall and it became so popular that they actually opened a few different locations for their pulled pork sandwiches.
Pop's got haggis with his pulled pork because he can't have a meal that doesn't have haggis in it while he's in Scotland. Also, we did this in our Scotland video, but this is Iron Bru, which sells more than Coca-Cola in Scotland, and it's decent. It kind of tastes like bubblegum if you drink it. That's what I feel like.
It's a really nice sandwich. The pulled pork has got a delicious flavor. They recommended putting like a chili jelly on it, which is really sweet, that combination of the savory and the sweet. And I happen to put a little haggis on mine too. And I don't know, that adds something probably.
That was a great spot for lunch, and we got lucky because it was our 25th anniversary and it was only £2.50 for a roll. Leaving lunch, we were heading to a different part of the city, and so we decided to take a double-decker bus and have the quintessential United Kingdom experience.
We got the front row spot right here.
Front row spot. Beautiful.
If you're gonna take a bus, you can tap right in with your phone, so it's super easy, and I have to say it's pretty cool to go along the Royal Mile in a double-decker bus. It definitely gives you a good appreciation of the architecture and the cool views you have in the city. It's definitely a great way to get around, as it was only £2.20 to ride, and it took us right to our next stop, the National Museum of Scotland. This museum opened in 1866, and it was actually two museums throughout a lot of its life, with the Victorian Royal Museum and the Museum of Scotland. Museums were finally connected in 2011 into what you see today. Inside the museum, you'll find 16 galleries and tens of thousands of objects. Dolly is the must-see thing here. She was the first mammal cloned from an adult cell. She was born in 1996. Spaceman Pops, here he is. I think you've been a spaceman before, Pops.
Right. This is next level. To infinity and beyond!
Another highlight of the museum was the Millennium Clock, which was commissioned in 1990, and it rings every hour. Clock is about to go off in 1 minute, so we'll see what happens. It's pretty hard to show here, but it's very detailed with lots of different characters and movements all throughout the clock, and it goes off for about 5 minutes. If you're there on the hour, definitely stop to watch it. This is another famous thing to see here. These chess pieces were from 1200 and were made by the Vikings.
This is an incredible museum. There's so much to see. You could probably spend a half day here, and it's free.
I will say that in terms of the museums we saw in Scotland, this was definitely my favorite. The galleries have so many unique things to see, and I would have spent a lot more time here if I had it. On the way back, we had to stop by the Elephant House, which is the birthplace of Harry Potter. This is where she started writing it. It had a fire though, and so it's no longer open. There are plans to open it again in the future, and I hope that next time I come, I can go in there. After leaving the museum, be sure to walk down Victoria Street, which is one of the most beautiful streets in Edinburgh. This is the street I mentioned before that's said to have inspired Diagon Alley, and it's also where Blank Street Coffee is, which is one of my favorite spots to stop every time I'm in the United Kingdom. I love the coffee here, but definitely try the matcha. Even if you don't like it, give it a try, it's so good. On Victoria Street, you'll also find another Elephant House, which is where you can actually go inside and get a drink or get a butterscotch beer. And so if you're a Harry Potter fan and you really want to visit Elephant House, this is the only one that's currently open. There's also a lot of fun stores on this street with a couple catering to Harry Potter fans, and if you want to go in some of the most popular ones, you may have to wait 15 to 20 minutes just to enter. Also, if you want some pictures on this street without any other people, come early in the morning. We came in about 9 o'clock on a Sunday and there was no one on the street. I mean, there wasn't a lot open, but if you want photos, it's a great time for that. It was getting late in the day and we only had time for a few more stops, so we grabbed an Uber and we headed to the other part of the city for a unique Scotland experience. Figured we couldn't leave the city without trying some whiskey. This is the home of Johnnie Walker in Edinburgh, and it's a great spot to explore even if you're not a fan of whiskey. Johnnie Walker is the world's biggest selling Scotch whiskey brand, so it's pretty cool to experience it here as well. We booked the Journey of Flavor tour, which was the cheapest, and it started with us filling out our flavor profile.
Fancy a scoop of vanilla ice cream? Always. Alright, so we took our flavor profile. I'm beige, which is creamy, and Pops, what are you?
I'm yellow, which is my favorite color.
He's tropical. That's what I know about Pops. He's a tropical guy.
That's right, it's always been that way.
I can't show you any video on this tour as they only allowed photos, but what I can say is that this is an experience you definitely want to do even if you're not a fan of whiskey. I don't even know how to describe it other than that it follows the origins of Johnnie Walker from the 1820s to the present, with personal flavor profiling, multi-sensory installations, and immersive storytelling with all sorts of crazy lights. I've been on so many brewery and distillery tours in the past, and this one is unlike any I've ever been on. Then at the end, you get to go in this amazing bar and pick out 2 different drinks, from highballs to old fashions or even just straight drams of whiskey if that's what you want. Our tour gave us a small discount at the restaurant located on the top floor, and we decided to head up there to get some great views over the city and to try some of their food. It's busy, so I'd recommend getting a reservation for dinner, but we were able to get fit in at the bar, which was great.
Pop's got the famous soup known as Cullen Skink.
And it's kind of creamy with fish. Yeah, that's delicious. Very creamy. The haddock is in there. It's very well cooked. Tastes very, very fresh.
I ended up getting a gnocchi dish, and then we got the recommended bread with smoked butter.
You guys, this place is so good. They have smoked butter for the bread. The gnocchi is incredible with the flavors. The soup that Pop's got is like a above average clam chowder type soup. Man, this is a really strong spot. And here it is, our last stop of the day, the number 17th best bar in the world, Panda Sons.
I don't know why I said 17, because the list says it's the 30th best bar in the world. So I drug Pops along and we dove right in, walking through the hidden door full of books to enter the speakeasy. If you're ever wondering what it would be like to combine scientists with cocktail makers, then this is definitely the bar for you. Inside, they've pioneered many different processes to create unique flavors through freeze distillation and freeze drying. I didn't understand half the things the menu was talking about, but I'm always excited to see someone passionate about their craft.
I went with the coconut daiquiri, which is the drink that put them on the map here. And Pop's got a affogato type drink with a whiskey and ice cream and all sorts of craziness. And then we got some olives to go along with it.
Amazing drinks and absolutely the perfect way to end our time in one of my favorite cities I've ever been to. And with that, we're back in our Airbnb. 2 days of exploring Edinburgh is done. Incredible city. I cannot wait to come back already. Pops will have some videos on his channel, and if you want to see more Scotland road trip stuff, you can see that up here. We'll see you on the next video.